All right, so now that we have all these users, more than we can display on any given page or within any single request, we're going to institute some pagination. So we're going to create this as a separate component, as I mentioned in the previous video. And the way we do that is we can bring components into components. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to import Paginator from, and in here it's going to be, let me see here, we'll create the folder here. So it's going to be, we'll call them utilities because we'll use them in multiple places. So it's just a tool. New folder, we're going to call this Pagination. We're going to have two files in here. One is going to be the actual paginator. The other one is going to be what describes to us on the page where we're at. And I'll show you the reason why shortly. So this one here is going to be paginator.view. Okay, and now we're going to come back here. We're going to say // we want to go down to utilities, pagination, and we want it paginator.view. Okay, we'll make sure that was brought in successfully. Okay, so I found it, no problems there. We'll start with our basic template file. And in here, we're just going to copy and paste some Bootstrap stuff. So because our installation automatically comes with Bootstrap here, what I want to do is go into documentation, go to getbootstrap.com, documentation, and then we'll just say paginator. So pagination. And in here we have our basic paginator classes. So I'll copy that. I'll go back to our template here, paste that in. I'll clean that up so it's formatted nicely. And basically all we're going to need is, we'll start out with this one. So first things first, I want to be able to move forward in our paginator. So to do that, just going to use this one, and I'm going to create a button using an icon here. And the icon is going to be, it's i.fas.fa-chevron -right. Now every time I click on this one, I want it to move to the right. So there's a few things that we have to do here. One, we need to bring in the results data from our previous component within the hierarchy. So we'll create a script tag here, export default, and it's going to bring in a props. So props are just properties that we pass through components. From component to component. So this prop will come to us from the parent component. And results is the name of the prop because that's the name of what it is here. One other thing we need to do here is we do need to register the components so that the data we get in here, the functionality, all that is there correctly. Okay, paginator. So we've registered this. Under components, now we can add the components up above our table class here. So I'm going to say paginator. So that's what we registered it as. VIF, first of all, we want to make sure that there are results. So that results variable, like we saw here, it needs to not be null. And we need to therefore bind the results. So vbind, basically what we're doing here with bind is we're passing through the prop, and the prop name needs to be results. So we'll say vbind results equals what we have for results on this page here. So we'll go with results. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to listen. We're going to emit an event, but this adds an event listener so that when we emit that event, we can take some kind of an action. And so in this case, what I want to do is we'll say von, and we'll call this event get page. So this will be the get page event, and then we'll say get page here. So what we need to do is we need to create a function, a method down here called get page that does a couple of things. One, it's going to pass through an event. That event is going to be our page number. So we want to take this dot params, first of all, dot page, and we want to make it equal whatever that event element was in there. Now, what we want to do is, after that's done, we want to get our users for that particular page. So this is fairly simple here for get users, because the params have been updated here and the params are used down here to pull it in. And with Laravel, with this page attribute, it automatically checks for that in the incoming request to see what page. If it doesn't show a page in the incoming request, then it just gives you page 1 down there. Now, one other thing I want to do in the Paginator is I want to console log results so you can see what that object looks like. So once this component is mounted and that prop has been passed through, I want to console.log this.results. Okay, perfect. Now, let's go back to our page here. We'll refresh this page and let's see what we're given. Okay, so we're given this little button here. I'm going to go F12. We can see we consoled that object here, and this is all the information that comes through in our Paginator. So as you saw in the previous video, data, results.data carries the actual data of our particular users. Now, but we have all this other information here. So what we want to do is I want to take, in order to move forward one page through our results, I want to take whatever the current page is, page 1, and add to it. So let's do that first. And I'm trying to break this down very incrementally so that you can understand this, how it's being built. Because sometimes paginators can be a little bit difficult or tricky with the data coming through. So first of all, I want to click .prevent because I noticed in some projects, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, even though it has a hash symbol on it, one of the plugins I was working with for JavaScript, it actually ended up trying to go to some address, and that didn't work well. So here, I don't want that happening, so I'm going to go click.prevent any other action. And what I want to do is emit. This is like creating an event listener or firing an event. And as we saw from this page, that event ends up being get-page. So get-page. Now, what I need to do is I need to access results.current page, and I just need to add 1 to it. So it's always going to give us the next page. Okay. Now, I'll refresh this, and we have this up here, and this brings us over to the next page. Great. That's fantastic. Now we know what we're dealing with here. Let's do this to go back a page. So we're actually going to want this up above. And we're going to say we wanted to subtract a page, right? Subtract 1 from the current page. And we want to change this from chevron right to chevron left. I'll go ahead and I'll refresh that. Now we get this. But you might notice, because it's negative value, it's always going to send us the first one, right? And we have current page in there 1. Okay. But we can still go forward, and then if we go forward, we can go back again, and forward, and forward, and forward, and forward, and back, and back, and back, all the way back to the first page. Great. Now, we don't really want this. If we're on page 1, we really don't want this showing. So let's go ahead and say we'll add a conditional in here. I'm going to break this down a little bit. And actually, I'm going to put this in the LI itself for the onClick. All right. Perfect. Now, I'm going to put a conditional on here. So I only want this one to be displayed if the current page .current underscore page is greater than 1. Okay, let's go back to our page here. We can see that no longer shows up. But when we're on the second page, that then shows up again, which is perfect. Well, the other thing I want to do here is I want to add one to go all the way to the end of our results. This is really easy here. All I do is I go last page, and I'm just going to add this. Oops. I'm going to organize this a little bit in here. Just bear with me a moment. All right, so this is the... Just to try to make things very clean and readable. So I've added another chevron right to this with the purpose, of course, of adding basically double arrows. And this will take us again to the last page. So let's go ahead and refresh this. Now we have this, which will take us all the way to the last page in here. But if we're on the last page, we really don't want this one showing. In fact, even on the second last page, we don't want this one showing. We only want this one showing. So let's add some conditionals to this one. First of all, well, first things here, just like we did up top, I want to move this one right into here. Then I want to say vif equals if results dot current page is less than results dot last underscore page minus 1, then I want it to show up. Let's see here. Minus 1 or minus 2? We'll see what that looks like here. Might have to come back and view it again. So we'll go to the end. Great, that doesn't show up. Now, same with up here. So I'm going to do this again. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to remove this here. And bring that in there. Okay, perfect. So current page, so vif if results dot current underscore page is less than results dot last underscore page, then we want that to show up, right? So in here we have these two. Now we shouldn't see either of them, but if we go back, we should see this one, and if we go back again, we should see this one. So now that's all correct. Let's hook up the one that goes all the way left, and then we'll move on to actually adding our numbers in there for the page numbers. So in here, we're going to add up at the top the double chevron. And I'm just going to copy and paste this down. A quick way to do it is put your cursor on the line, click, type Shift, Alt, and then down arrow, and you'll then have the double chevron. And here, this one's the easiest of them all. We just want to return page number 1. Okay. But we only want this one to show up if we're not on, if it's greater than page 2. Okay. So in here, the 1 shows up. Now for 2 pages over, now we can use this, go all the way back, all the way forward, and you can see that portion of it works now for us. Now the last thing we need to do is add in the specific numbers, which we're going to have to add just a little bit more logic. We'll have to add a little bit more logic to it. So, all right, see you in the next video.